7 captains for Ohio State is too many. At least that's what Ryan Day's recent approach would make you think. Ohio State had 3 captains in 2023, 4 in 2024, and 4 again in 2025. Day has even said he doesn't like having a ton of captains and that ideally he likes the number around 4. So when Ohio State announced 7 captains on Saturday for the 2026 season, my first reaction was simple. Why? And after looking at who was picked, what has happened inside this team during camp, and especially what I've been told about Peyton Pierce over the last week, I actually think 7 tells us something really important about this team. This is not Ohio State handing out participation trophies. This is a team that votes on the identified 7 guys taking on different leadership jobs. And one player in particular may not have forced his way into the group because of what happened after the scrimmage. He may have completely earned it. So I'm John with BuckeyeHuddle.com, where you get deep Ohio State coverage, elite recruited intel, and none of the toxic noise. Instead of going captain by captain in this, we're breaking these 7 captains into groups. The obvious returners, the 2 superstars whose leadership matters almost as much as their talent, and the defensive group where I think we find the real reason Ohio State ended up with 7 captains. So let's start with Austin Seierveld and Brandon Inniss. There really was not much suspense here. Both were captains last season. Both came back. Both were established voices in their room. Seierveld is now the first Ohio State offensive lineman to become a 2-time captain since Billy Price in 2016 and 2017. That matters because the offensive line is still sorting through combinations, roles, and young players. I think almost certainly Ian Moore is going to end up being your left tackle, but we'll figure that out when it comes. Seierveld gives that room continuity with Ohio State, while Ohio State figures out exactly what its best 5 looks like. But Inniss might have been even more obvious. He's a 2-time captain now, and he was no doubt the choice for the block. Oh, remember that award. Remember what that award represents. It's not the best player on the team. It's accountability. It's character. It's toughness. It's respect. Inniss has become that guy. He's emotional. He's vocal. He will challenge people to their face, and he has stayed invested through a career that's not always given him the production that people would have expected. That gives him credibility. But this is where the obvious question comes in. If Ryan Day prefers a smaller captain group, why not stop at Inniss? Seierveld and a couple other obvious names, sure, but because I don't think 7 was the goal. The vote was the goal. The votes were the goal. But Day has explained before that they look for gaps in the voting. In 2023, that produced only 3 captains. In 2024, Day said there could have been 8 to 10 guys worthy of being captains, but Ohio State officially only picked 4. And that matters, especially with Ryan Day in this group. Day has already shown he's willing to leave good players out of being in the official captain group. So if 7 made it through this year, I don't think Ohio State lowered the standard. I think more guys cleared it. Ohio State naming 7 captain looks excessive until you remember Ryan Day's recent history. Like I said, 3 in 2023, 4 in 2024, and 2025. And Day has said before that he doesn't like having a ton of captains, and ideally he would like around 4. So 7 is not normal for the direction of this program has gone recently. That's why I don't think you should view this as Ohio State just handing out leadership titles, kind of like the Urban Meyer era a little bit, right? Day said in 2024, there could have been 8 to 10 captain level leaders, and they still selected only 4. The question isn't why did Ohio State even name 7 captains? It's what did these 7 guys do that made the team unwillingly leave them out? And when you break this group into categories, the answer becomes much clearer. The second group is Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith. These were the 2 fascinating votes to me, not because they either lacks credibility by any means. They might be the 2 most talented players in all of college football. They're certainly the 2 most talented on this roster, I believe. The question was whether their personalities had developed to the point that teammates viewed them as official captains. Apparently, the answer is yes. Sayin is the first Ohio State quarterback to be named captain since C.J. Stroud in 2022, which that's significant. You've had Kyle McCord, you've had Will Howard, now you have Julian Sayin. Quarterback is automatically a leadership position in some ways, but Ohio State does not automatically hand the captain title over to a starter. Sayin had to become more than the guy just making the throws, and everything we've heard this offseason points to that happening. He's naturally reserved. He's not going to become Brandon Inniss or anything like that, and he shouldn't try to. You need to be yourself, but Ryan Day has talked about Sayin finding his voice more. Teammates have said that he is more vocal. You do not need your quarterback to become the screaming, emotional, motivational speaker of the team, but you do need him to communicate. You do need people to have confidence in him. Correct, command, and demand. Those are the things you need from your quarterback. You need guys to feel his presence. Maybe the look in the eyes thing that Ryan Day says all the time, but you get what I'm saying here, right? That is what appears to be changing. And Jeremiah Smith is going through a similar evolution. Jeremiah has always led by example because he works like crazy. But this offseason, Day has specifically talked about Smith finding his voice too. He has noted Jeremiah staying around in the huddle, even when the second and third groups are getting reps, listening, encouraging guys, coaching guys up as a player himself. And from what I understand, that has continued in the receiver room as well. Smith is still Smith. Jeremiah Smith, he's still Jeremiah Smith. He's not suddenly the loudest guy in the room, but if a young receiver needs corrected, Jeremiah Smith is right there, about ready to do it for him. If Brandon Inniss isn't, right? He's always in there too. But if somebody needs to understand how Ohio State does something, he's speaking up, and that matters. Because nobody can look at Jeremiah Smith and question whether he practices hard enough. Nobody can question whether he produces for the team. So when he starts demanding that standard from other people, it carries weight. The most encouraging part of Ohio State's captain vote might be Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, not because they're stars. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows they're stars. Everybody knows they're two of the best players in the country, possibly the two best players on the team, depending on how you want to look at it. It's because both are naturally reserved personalities, and both are becoming more vocal without trying to become somebody they're not. Ryan Day has said Sayin has found his voice more, and that matters because quarterback leadership is not just making throws. It's controlling the operation. It's correcting problems. It is looking the guys in the eyes and having confidence, as Ryan Day would say, looking them in the eyes, right? Jeremiah Smith is doing something similar. Day said this spring that Smith has been, like I said, staying near the huddle, listening, encouraging. That is the evolution you want to see. Ohio State's best offensive players are not simply the guys everyone watches on Saturday anymore. Their teammates just voted them into the group responsible for setting the standard Monday through Friday and on game day. Talent gives you stars, sure, but talent plus accountability gives you a championship locker room. Now we get to the part that I think explains the number the most. It's the defensive side. Kenyatta Jackson and Jalen McClain were not huge surprises. McClain especially. We talked about him. I told you before that I expected McClain to be a captain, and nearly every Ohio State media person was on that as well. So, depending on whatever show you listen to, you probably heard that conversation and people pointing that out. So Ohio State sent him to Big Ten Media Day. Sayin and Smith were there too, but you could have said they're the most talented guys, so it makes sense. But McClain was pretty obvious. He has publicly talked about replacing Caleb Downs' responsibility as the field general in the secondary and becoming the guy who makes everybody around him comfortable. That is captain stuff. Now, Kenyatta Jackson is reassurance. He has been around, he has produced, and he has talked to this camp about becoming more of a vocal leader. For a defensive line, replacing pieces and bringing in transfers, having a veteran edge player that takes ownership is exactly what you want. He's the first edge player, defensive lineman, to be a captain since Jack Sawyer back in 2024. But neither McClain nor Jackson is the story that surprised me. The one that is the seventh captain. It's Peyton Pierce. And I think what happened with Pierce over the last week is one of the most encouraging developments of Ohio State's camp. Pierce was already taking on more responsibility. He's the middle linebacker. He's your green dot guy. He has literally said becoming a captain and a leader at Ohio State was one of his goals when he arrived. But there's a difference between wanting to lead and having the team decide That's our guy. That's one of our leaders. And this past week may have been where those two things met. Here's the intel I was given, okay? After Ohio State's first scrimmage, Ryan Day publicly praised how the offense responded, including when the rain came. What I was told from the defensive side is that Pierce did not like what he saw from the defense. And all week after the scrimmage, he was impassioned. He was in front of the linebacker room. He was in front of the defense, challenging them, speaking up, demanding more from them, making sure they know that the scrimmage was unacceptable from the defense, not just communicating the call because he has the green dot, but actually challenging players, some of them by name. I didn't get the names of exactly who, but some of them by name. And that distinction is enormous. Ohio State has other leaders on defense. Jackson leads, McClain leads, but every great defense also needs somebody who, when practice is not good enough, he's willing to make everybody uncomfortable and call people out in a way that is leadership and not just, blaming. But from what I've been told, Pierce has become that dude. He is the impassioned, get in your face, challenge you type of leader. And I think this defense needed that personality. Sonny Styles is gone. Caleb Downs is gone. This defense did not just need tackles replaced. It needed authority replaced. It needed leadership replaced. Pierce went from being the guy trusted to wear the green dot to being the guy teammates trusted enough to vote him as a captain. Those are not the same thing. The coaching staff can give you the green dot, your teammates give you captain, and this brings me to James Laurinaitis. Ohio State is so blessed to have him. Or lucky, I guess, whatever you want to call it. Because I don't think you can separate what is happening with Pierce from the way Laurinaitis coaches that linebacker room. James Laurinaitis, a two-time Ohio State captain himself, he has talked about Pierce being competitive, being a perfectionist, pushing guys in front of him, even when he was younger than them, earning respect because of how physically he practiced. And now, the magic words, finding his voice. That sounds pretty significant now because the linebacker room at Ohio State keeps producing these guys. I mean, you can even go back to Tommy Eichenberg, right? Cody Simon, Sonny Styles, and now Peyton Pierce. Ohio State has had at least one linebacker named captain every season since 2015. That's not random. There is a culture in that room where the Mike linebacker is taught that his job is bigger than just tackles. His job is bigger than just giving the communication. He has to set the defense. He has to communicate. He has to demand. He has to lead and make sure every guy knows what's acceptable and what's not out there. And that is coaching development people do not put on recruiting graphics, but it absolutely matters. Peyton Pierce might be the reason I'm completely fine with Ohio State having 7 captains. Because Pierce was not just handed the title because he was starting middle linebacker. He was already wearing the green dot. The staff already trusted him to communicate the defense. But after Ohio State's first scrimmage, I was told that Pierce became one of the most impassioned voices on that side of the ball. Challenging the linebacker room, challenging the defense as a whole, making sure they know what is acceptable and what is not. He became the guy willing to get in people's face and demand a better standard. And that is different from simply being a communicator, and that's huge on a team with 51 new players on it. The coaches can hand you the green dot. Your teammates can vote you captain. That tells you the room noticed. That tells you the defense noticed. That tells you the team noticed Peyton Pierce. And James Laurinaitis deserves so much credit here, too. He said months ago that Pierce was a perfectionist, that he'd earned respect on how hard he physically practiced, and that he's starting to, again, find his voice. Well, apparently he found it. Apparently everybody else found it, too. Ohio State did not need to squeeze that guy out of the captain group just to keep the number 4. He earned his way into the 7. So are 7 captains too many? Normally I'd say yes. I like a smaller group. I think Ryan Day's had a good strategy with that. But Ryan Day has clearly leaned that direction recently too. Being a captain should be difficult to earn. But that is exactly why I'm not bothered by 7 this time. Ennis and Seierveld give you continuity. Sayan and Smith tell you that your two biggest offensive stars are becoming real voices. Real respect is being given to them as captains and leaders. McClain and Jackson give the young defense established veteran leadership, and Pierce gives you the defense something I'm not sure it had before camp: an emotional challenger in the middle of it. That is 7 different reasons. And if Pierce's rise over the last week is as real as the people around the program and the team believe it is, then the 7th captain is not evidence that Ohio State watered down the honor. It might be evidence that one more leader forced Ryan Day and the team to make that decision. That's what we got for this episode of the Buckeye Huddle podcast. Thank you for joining us, and you can come back here every Sunday through Thursday for daily Ohio State coverage and analysis. And let me know in the comments, do you think 7 captains is too many, or are you like me and you think these guys in this group earned it, and that's something that needs to be discussed and something that needs to be recognized? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Would love to hear from you guys again, and I can't wait to see you or to put out another video for you Monday night, 7 p.m. podcast and video here on YouTube. Go visit us at buckeyehuddle.com. Join us on the message board. Me, Connor, TJ, Mark Givler, Kevin Noon, all the guys. We appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.